All right. Now, Mr. Deon Olton is a university graduate and certified IT security practitioner with over 25 years in IT and telecommunications. He's well-known regional expert in cybersecurity, having assisted multiple organizations improve their security posture. Written extensive articles for popular publications. He's also written annual cybersecurity predictions for the region. He has been a featured speaker at several regional cybersecurity and digital forensic forums. Mr. Olton's experience in telecommunications, ICT, and cybersecurity allows him to perform multiple roles in IT risk assessment, incident response, security awareness training, and long-term strategic IT planning. And that is information technology planning. Sorry for some of the acronyms. Additionally, he has a great interest in complex data security issues with particular focus on ICT infrastructure security and management, application security, and identity management, to list a few. On any day, he deals with issues such as network security, ethical hacking, access control, business continuity management, incident response planning, security monitoring and privacy, and data protection. With this depth of experience and passion, Mr. Olton has developed proactive and sustainable security management plans to address the growing cybersecurity threats to the Caribbean region's economies, which are based on ITIL, NASD, and ISO 27001 framework, which I believe that he will explain to us all these fancy initials that he left here without the words. So I'm going to let him, as he present, he will explain those to us. As the project leader for the Caribbean's first and only Indigenous cybersecurity public awareness campaign, he has a mission of keeping children, citizens safe online. He is responsible for the online web portal. He creates public service messages, and he also is responsible for developing age-appropriate presentation for parents, schools, and their elderly. And without further ado, I would like to present Mr. Deon Olton to you this evening to enlighten us on this important topic of cybersecurity. Mr. Olton, it's all over to you.
Thank you, Marlene. Thank you, Pastor, for having me. You can hear me, right?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can,
hear
yeah.
and see your presentation.
Thank you for having me. I know we tried to do this a couple times before, but as Marlene said, you know, once God is in it, it's going to happen. So I guess God is in this. Yeah. So
Face, though? Can we see your face at least once?
Okay. It's right there at the bottom. See that picture at the bottom there? It's me right there.
Oh, but that's not active.
Okay. I'll turn on my camera. I hope you can see me. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you now. That's okay.
Okay.
If you want to turn it off afterwards, that's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, so you don't get distracted by my mustache. You focus on the presentation.
Okay. Okay. We have some, like, I think our youngest person is 5, and then we have all the way up. Yeah. So we have,
yeah. Okay. So the topic of keeping kids safe online is very near and dear to my heart. With all the work that I would have done since we started working in the area of information security and keeping organizations safe online, one of the things I would have recognized a couple of years ago was, I mean, if we try to keep all the companies safe, we would still have left one of the most important elements of our society still vulnerable and still at risk, which are our kids. So we conceptualized and started the first ever child online protection and public awareness campaign across the Caribbean. So this is a regional effort that we have. I mean, I've spoken to to groups as far east as, if you look at the reverse sea of the Caribbean, so from Belize all the way through Cayman, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Dominica, all on Trinidad, Suriname, Guyana. We've been flying the flag and trying to keep the interests out there and keeping our kids safe. And it is a very serious topic, one. And two, it requires a multidimensional and multidisciplinary focus, because while parents have a responsibility, there are other areas that have responsibilities as well. The kids have a responsibility as well. They need to know the law. They need to know that some of the things they're doing are illegal, right? And they can be prosecuted. So there's the kids, the parents. Then we look at the teachers. Teachers have a role to play. The church has a role to play. The internet service providers. Now today, almost every single child from the age of 5 up, with online learning and online schoolings, with all the island shutdowns and school closures, almost everybody now has access to a device, or almost every child now might have access to a device or might own a device. And in some cases, some children own 2 devices. Some kids might own a phone, and as well as a laptop. So access to technology and the devices is prevalent. So I'm gonna try to jump into it. So as I said, with today, the island shutdowns, school closures, self-isolation measures, many kids are now getting more screen time than ever before. And this is a real serious problem, because our kids now have almost limitless access to the computer and the internet. What does that mean, right? So we're finding, and research has shown, that parents, more than ever before, must ensure the kids are prepared for this increased access. And we've seen you spending more than 6 hours on the internet per day. 70% have posted contact details like email address, home address. Most youth have their GPS or location services turned on their devices. So, persons that they interact with can tell where they are, where they're located. And sometimes parents tend to use the fact that the kids are at home and on a device as a parenting tool. John is at home. He's on his computer, so he's safe. And probably as I go forward, you'll see that just having your kids at home and on the computer and without any supervision does not make them safe, right? There's still some good old-fashioned rules that we need to encourage our kids to pay attention to. Don't talk to strangers. Don't share personal information. Those good old-fashioned rules that our mom and their grandmothers and great grandmothers would have shared with us long before the internet was so pervasive and computing was so pervasive. We still need to reach out to our kids and share that guidance. Yeah. Additionally, excessive access to the internet can affect a child's beliefs and behaviors in terms of violence and aggression. There's studies that show there's a direct correlation between sex and substance abuse, obesity and eating disorders, and attention deficit disorders, diminished academic performance, hypertension, asthma, sleeping, mood disorders, psychological distress, and depression. So I think that if we look at what's happening, and we need to pay critical attention to it, we're seeing that while our kids might be having access to the devices and being on for long periods of time, if we pay close attention, we will see and the access has gotten really a lot higher since COVID. We're going to see that, we're going to see some effects in their academic performance. Kids that were getting, 90s and high 90s are now probably falling a little behind, because the access to and the new way of learning creates and allows them to become more distracted and not as focused as they normally would be if they were in a traditional classroom setting, right? That is what all of these studies are showing. We're seeing diminished performance in some kids, hypertension and asthma, eating disorders. Instead of sitting at the computer for an hour and then taking a break, go outside, get fresh air, we're seeing a lot of kids are just staying on and on and on. And across the region, what we're seeing, we've seen instances where a student, and some of this information, and this is probably the most graphic stuff you're going to see here, and it speaks to all of the impacts that I was saying before in terms of beliefs and values that our kids are now demonstrating. Before, the beliefs and values that our kids demonstrated were based on what they learned at home. Now with this access, we find that their belief system is being molded now by the online, playing games, playing Fortnite, talking to guys on Discord, and talking to people that we don't know. And all of these interactions form how we behave at home and online and at school when we get to go back to school. So we've seen reported in Trinidad, I think this was back in 2014. I don't think it was so far back. We see children are being used and targeted. And we have an instance in Trinidad where a girl was kidnapped by her Facebook friend. We've had a similar instance here in Barbados as well, right? Also in Trinidad, a student, I think is a 13-year-old boy, this was about 2 years ago, chopped off his mother's hand because she took away his cell phone, right? So the threat is real. This is a big problem. And, with all of you who are here, hear my voice, I hope that I'm going to give you some really good takeaways so that you manage your time and you get your work done and you don't become, impacted like some of these kids have been. So, one of the major problems with child online protection is there are no real statistics, right? But this is a global phenomenon. So what I've done, I've looked at some statistics of what is happening across the globe, right? And these statistics are mainly from the US. So we've seen 82% of online sex crimes. So these are crimes against minors. The offender used their social networking site to gain information about the victim, like the likes, where they live. So we need to be very careful, right? Very careful about the information that we're posting out there online. Very careful, because one of the major things that we need to always remember is that you can be anyone or anything on social media or on the internet. You can claim that you are a 13-year-old boy when you're only 10. But when you do that, then persons who like to talk to 13-year-old boys will try to talk to you, right? At least 200 million girls and 100 million boys will be victimized before they reach adulthood, right? And these are statistics from the US. There are over 700,000 registered pedophiles or sex offenders in the US, and 100,000 get lost in the system. And just to put this in context, if you look at the size of Barbados, right? Barbados has about 285,000 persons, right? That's about 3 times, 2.5, 3 times. So if you can visualize it, then for every one person there is in Barbados, there are 3 sex offenders in the US. Why this is so important? Well, these sex offenders now use the internet to perpetrate a lot of their heinous crimes against our children. So they don't travel as much. They go into the chat rooms, they go on social media, they play the online games that all of our kids like to play, and then they try to gain access to your information. They play with you, they recognize you're a great gamer. Oh, John, where do you live? Let's play or let's meet, right? So we need to be very, very cognizant of this threat. And with the increased access in this COVID period, our kids are now even more at risk than before, right? Even more at risk. And the threat is real, the risk is real, and I'll share something here quickly with you. This is so real that their agencies like the International Telecommunications Union and UNICEF have partnered to create a framework and a policy within the OECS, and I hope, and as the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, I hope that reaches Barbados and is adopted, and government gets involved and all the stakeholders get involved, because with the move to more digitization, more persons are going to be using the internet, more kids are going to be using it. Online schooling, I mean, we've struggled with getting stuff done with online schooling for eons, but with COVID, we had to accelerate the process, but there isn't enough attention or action being put in place to help our kids and our citizens be safe, right? So, I guess with the international organizations, the ITU and the OAS, they recognize that the kids in the Caribbean are highly at risk. And before I get off this slide, I want to tell you something, right? We could stop, we could, I'll tell you right here, why power is nothing without control. One of my trips to Belize, I was going on this TV show, early morning TV show, and just before I went on air, there was this police officer that was waiting to go on air as well, and we were chatting, and she told me a story that was so riveting, right? And this wasn't that long ago. I mean, I think it was probably in 2016 that I was in Belize. So it's only like 5 years ago, right? 7 years ago. Yeah, 5, 6 years ago. So while I was in Belize waiting to go on air, this police officer shared this story with me. And one of the registered and known sex offenders in the US had propositioned 2 young girls in exchange, right? In exchange for iPads. So these guys and these these pedophiles and criminals know that, in the Caribbean, it might be a little harder to get a device, it might be harder to get an iPad. So when they reach out to us and they start to talk to us about, and they're hiding under the cover of anonymity, right? Because they're presenting themselves as though they're the same age as you are, then you become comfortable, and then you figure it's okay to meet them, it's okay to talk to them, it's okay to tell them where mommy and daddy lives. And that is where the problem starts. So I know I've told you a lot of grim stuff, but the internet and online technologies and ICT is a glorious place to be. I think we're living in probably the best era of our lives, because everything now is at our fingertips. if you use the internet for watching movies, for doing your schoolwork, for entertainment, this is the life. I mean, you don't have to go and rent videotapes. I doubt most of our kids know what a videotape looks like. But I had these things back in the day called video shops, and they would record all the movies, and you had to go pay $2 or so to rent a movie, right? Marlon might know about that, and the pastor might know about that because and I know about that because we're older.
That's true.
Yeah, but today a movie gets launched today, tomorrow, you see it up on a stream, and all those things you have to be careful of, right? You have to be careful of, because that is where the problem starts, and access is where it starts, and that's why there needs to be a parental involvement. So despite the fact that there's some doom and gloom, there are lots of positives of being online. Yeah, access to online learning. It breaks down the geographies and barriers of communication. So before, I mean, days of old, before there was something called email, you had to write a letter, and you had to put it in a post box and put a stamp on it, put it in a post box, and then it takes about a week, sometimes even longer, to get to the intended recipient, right? Today we have WhatsApp, we have Facebook messaging, we have all the different means through which we can speak to people instantaneously, whether they're on island with us or whether they're across the globe in China, in different time zones. No matter where they are, access to technology has broken down the barriers. And now once you go online, you're now a part of that global community. And that is the reality, right? We're all a part of the global community. So all of us have a responsibility to ensure that we understand so many things to keep ourselves safe once we go online, because just as there are all these great things online, there are also, as I would have said before, they're the bad elements of it. So we need to protect ourselves. We need to put the shields up. So here are some of the dangers to our kids. Yeah. One of the major dangers to our kids online is our kids themselves, right? A lot of our kids are IT savvy. They know how to navigate through the phone. It's built in their DNA. They're smarter than us adults. But they don't have the experience of how to, or the ability to discern what looks good and what looks suspicious and what is not good and what I should not be doing. That is where parents have to get involved. That's where different stakeholders have to get involved. The school, the church, government needs to get involved. Private sector needs to get involved, because kids can seriously, get hurt by these things called sexual predators, or they can lose their life, right? Cyberbullying. We all know about bullying in schools and bullying face to face. Now, cyberbullying is probably a little more dangerous, because as soon as you post that malicious content about your friend or your past friend, and you post it on Facebook, or you write something and you share it to one of your friends, and we know how it goes. As soon as it hits WhatsApp, the whole of Barbados and the rest of the world getting it, right? So now the reach, before, when you bully a guy, I mean, I remember, back in the day, bullying at school, you go and try to take away somebody's lunch. But cyberbullying is a different dimension. It's far reaching. And when you put the content out there, sometimes you cannot pull it back. That's why this cyberbullying is so serious, right? So we get into these a little further as we go forward. Bad internet content. There are hate sites out there that promote radicalism, that promote hate amongst us. So we need to look out for those things. Damaged reputations. Now, your reputation is one of those things that precedes you. So if your reputation is affected by something that someone might have said maliciously, then you know for sure that can have far-reaching implications. So if you're at the age of 16, 17, 18, and probably in your early 20s, you go looking for a job and information gets out there about past behaviors, whether it's true or not, then that can really damage your reputation and prevent you from getting the job that you wanted, irrespective of how many qualifications you have. Yeah. So we need to be very careful and mindful of that. So a couple more risky behaviors that our kids get involved in. Posting personal information, I mentioned that before. Interacting with strangers online, playing online games with strangers, visiting X-rated sites and hate sites, talking about sex with strangers. Now, I think that's a definite no-no. I think our youth need to be mindful that, once you see the word strangers, or once it's some person that you are not in school with, that don't live on this rock, even if they live on this rock and they're a stranger, you need to be highly suspicious and highly cautious and be careful of the kind of information that you're posting. Now, with the prevalence of Google Classroom, we are finding across the region, this is happening across the region, a lot of kids are gaining access to the Google Classrooms for other kids, logging on to the classroom, and then bombarding it with a lot of negative information, inappropriate content. It could be music, it could be loud music, it could be pictures, inappropriate pictures, whatever the kind of content is, we're seeing this has started to raise its ugly head since the online schooling has started, and a lot of schools have put measures in place to deal with it. Yeah. So online predators, they masquerade as children. They try to trick children into revealing personal information. So as I said before, they try to get information in terms of where you live, where your mom and dad goes to work, and all that kind of information. Then they try to lure you into a meeting. So you have to be very careful. If even adults, you need to be, and this information is not just good for kids, but it's good for all users of the technology. People are going to try to lure you to a meeting, and you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that kid that gets kidnapped. And for the most part of it, these predators perform illicit acts on our kids. It might even lead to their death, or they might be harmed in some way, right? So we need to be very careful with the persons out there who are trying to get us to communicate and meet with them, because they hide under the whole idea of being anonymous on the internet. Yeah. So here's a graphic that speaks clearly to that, the level of anonymity. Yeah. Meet Susan. Susan is actually a 42-year-old man posing as a 15-year-old girl. So he's posing as a 15-year-old girl, and they're texting and they're talking. And Susan has just asked your 13-year-old to come meet in the park. Come meet by Sheraton. Come meet by Lime Grove, right? And all these things are happening right here on this rock. And we need to be very careful of who our kids are talking to. We actually need to know who our kids are talking to. Me personally, I have 3 sons, 19, 16, and 12. And my 12-year-old has been having some experiences where he's a gamer, so he likes to game, and he started talking to strangers. I just shut it down, right? So as we started talking to strangers, there's a definite no-no. So parents need to get proactive and try to know who your kids are talking to. And even though they might be the same age, you have to have your guard up, because you can put down anything as an age. We're going to look a little bit at cyberbullying. Say no to cyberbullying. There are a lot of campaigns going on. I think there were campaigns in our schools about cyberbullying. And cyberbullying really happens when someone posts or forwards a private message, right, that is embarrassing to others. Tricking someone to reveal embarrassing information and forward it to others. Someone might steal your password to your device, or you might have unknowingly or trustingly shared your password with someone, and then they got access to your device or your account. And these days, as you know, with Facebook, if I want to get access to the pastor's Facebook account, if she has one, I don't need to use her computer. All I need is her username and her password, right? So passwords are very important too. So you need to make sure you use passwords that are difficult to guess. Don't use passwords that are your name or your name's your last name. Don't use your first name, last name. Always make sure it's a little complex and that it's easy to remember. Okay? So here's some quick guidance in terms of how to deal with cyberbullying. Never respond to unkind remarks. Don't participate in cyberbullying. Block the cyberbully. Know your privacy controls and how to block people when you're using social media. Always tell an adult. If you're a kid, tell an adult. Notify your teacher or principal or pastor or trusted adult who can help you, with the problem. I would always recommend you start with your parent first. If you're a minor, if you're under the age of 16, always start with your parents. Don't share your password to anyone unless it's your mom or dad. And don't leave your computer unlocked lying around, because someone could easily gain access. So if you had your computer left unlocked, someone could easily gain access to your Facebook, your social media, Discord, if it's Discord, or whether it's Facebook messaging, and impersonate you and say something or post something, and then you have to go through all the effort and hassle to then kind of clear your name. Yeah, so you need to be very careful of that. Bad internet content, just like how there are bad parts of the internet, just like how there are bad parts of town, that should be written the other way around. Just like how there are bad parts of town that you shouldn't really go. There are bad parts of the internet. There are radical sites that promote hate and wrongdoing to others. There are websites that have infections on them. There's this thing called malware and viruses, which once they get on your computer causes your computer to behave in a way in which it is not supposed to. So it might stop you from gaining access to the internet. It might corrupt your files. So all the schoolwork that you have on your computer might be lost. So you need to be very careful when you start to navigate on these sites. And these sites tend to be sites where you need to be very careful whenever you have software or videos or stuff that's coming out and you see it get posted on a site. You should be always suspicious, because sometimes there's a saying, free thing no good, right? So you need to be very careful. If the original owners who copyright it have it for sale, you need to be very careful when you see it being posted for free, because that is just to lure you to the site. And once you go on that site, then you might get something what we call a drive-by infection. So you go to the website and it might automatically download some malware or virus on your computer. Then you realize, wait, what? My computer is trying to print. I didn't send anything to the printer. Or someone might call you and say, hey, I'm John, or Pastor, did you send me an email yesterday? And the pastor might not have turned on her computer yesterday. So all these things are happening and we need to be careful of all this content. I think this one speaks volumes. The picture alone. A tongue has no bones, but it can hit harder than a fist. The things that we say we cannot pull back, especially things that we say on the internet. So distributing verbal abuse on the internet, as soon as we post something on Facebook or on the social media sites and you hit send, or on WhatsApp you hit send, you can't pull it back. So you need to pay close attention to the things that you say. Always make sure the things that you say are true, not hurtful, and and it's something that if your mom or dad or a third party looked at it, they would know that this is something that should be said. Right? So only say good things online, because when you say the bad things, you cannot pull them back. So when you say good things, you don't want to pull back good things, because the good things are true. All across the region, this is a big problem. Bad internet content, distributing fights. So we've seen instances here in Barbados where school A and school B got in a fight in the van stand, and everybody now is a paparazzi. Everybody now is a videographer. So the phones come out and they do the recordings, and then boom, all that information is plastered all across the island, and it shows the kids' faces, which is a violation of privacy. It shows the inappropriate behavior. Sometimes you hear them cursing and all that bad stuff. So when that stuff gets to your phone, don't be the person who also sends it on. Yeah, just delete it, because it's not positive. Only encourage positive things in your realm. Now, one of the things that we need to know is the law, right? So for minors, for our kids, we need to know the law. We need to know in Barbados, we have something called the Computer Misuse Act, and I'll just focus on that. I will ignore the Trinidad and OECS right now. So the Barbados Computer Misuse Act prohibits certain kinds of conduct when using a computing device, and that computing device can be a computer, it could be a laptop, it could be a phone, anything that has the capability to behave like a computer, it refers to. So you can't say, oh, that doesn't cover me because I have a phone. No. It also covers your phone, right? So it prohibits interfering with a computer system, illegal interception of data, illegal devices, access with intention to commit an offense, unauthorized disclosure of access code, child pornography, and malicious communication. So we're going to focus in on the last two, child pornography and malicious communication. Yeah? But we touch a little more than that. So pornography. What is pornography, right? Pornography is the capturing of minors, child pornography, capturing of minors engaging in sexual behavior, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So anyone who, so listen to me carefully, anyone who knowingly has pornography on any of their computing devices, right? If you knowingly have it on your computer or on your phone, you can be charged, because if you possess child pornography in a computer system or on a computer data storage medium for the purpose of publication, you can be found guilty of an offense and is liable on conviction. And we're talking about fines of $50,000 to imprisonment for a term or imprisonment for a term of 5 years or both. So let's reel it back. Child pornography, then, let me give you a classic example. A couple years ago, there was this instance where this boy and girl were recorded. I'm sure this should be fresh in the minds of the adults who are listening. This boy and girl were recorded in their act, and that went viral, right? That went viral. That two minors engaging in that behavior is considered pornography. That went viral. Almost every single phone in the island had these two kids doing the thing, right? Now, every single phone that had that content was in breach of the law. And if the police had gotten access to all those phones, now everyone that has it is guilty because you have child pornography on your phone, right? So you could face a fine of $50,000 or imprisonment for a term of 5 years or both. So when you see stuff like that comes on your phone, do two things. One, delete it, and then two, call the person that sent it to you and say, hey, don't send that sort of stuff to my phone, right? We need to start protecting ourselves. This is where we start to get proactive and protect ourselves about how we use the devices and stuff. The information that we post on social media, right? We need to be very careful. Now, under the Computer Misuse Act, Act 14, there's a section that speaks to malicious communication. And malicious communication is a message, letter, or any electronic communication that is indecent or obscene, or is threatening, or is menacing in character, and the person who sent it intends to cause harm or an annoyance or distress or anxiety to the recipient. So, let me give an example. If I took up my phone and sent a message to my friend Marlon Patrick, and I said, Marlon, you have a third eye on your forehead. And my intention was to cause her distress, right? There's a part of law that a lot of us don't know and don't pay attention to, right? Marlon has, within the course of the law, Marlon has recourse that she can go to the police station, or she can get a lawyer and get legal representation and bring a case against me for those simple words, right? So we need to be mindful of the things we say and the things that we type, because remember the two things I said. One, when you hit send, it's no longer yours. And two, you cannot pull it back. Because by the time you decide to pull it back, 10 other people or 100 other people or 1,000 people have either seen it or have shared it. So you can't pull it back. So you need to be very careful of the things that you say, right? I'll skip that. Now, one thing that we need to know as well as for the younger folks in the audience, there's a Juvenile Offenders Act, and that speaks to the age of criminal responsibility. And the age of criminal responsibility in Barbados, I think, is age 11, which means that at age 11, you can be charged for any crime that you commit. Don't think that, oh, man, it's 8 and 9, I can say anything I want to say, and the boy can't do nothing. It's a child. No. For the time you hit 11, there's the age of criminal responsibility. The Defamation Act, Section 14, if found criminally liable, the court can impose a fine of $2,000 or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 months or both. So the Defamation Act speaks to kind of like malicious communication. Yeah? Speaks to malicious communication. You can't walk around saying bad things about people or typing bad things about people with the intention to hurt them or hurt their character, because then you're going to find yourselves right in prison, or your mom and dad have to go find you know, a lawyer to get some sort of representation for you. Now, one of the most important things we have to do is manage our reputation. And here's how you keep your reputation safe, right? Don't post, and I said this before, don't post any content, whether it's a photo or a video or text, that you might regret later. Yeah, think about your online image. Who will see it? What will they think? Make sure you use the privacy settings. Remember that your online choices have offline consequences, and in some cases, legal implications. Remember how fast information images get forwarded to people beyond your group or your group of friends via texting? You know, and if it's something that is salacious or something that is that is topical or juicy, yeah, travels like wildfire. Everybody's going to get it. So you need to be very careful of how you manage your content. So we need to teach our kids a couple of things. Before you speak, make sure that the content that you're sharing is true, right? Is helpful, is inspiring, is necessary, and is kind. If you don't have any of it, if what you're saying does not fit the criteria of any of these guidelines there, these 5 guidelines, don't say it. Don't post it. Right? In terms of social media, remember social media can affect your privacy, your time, and your reputation. So be careful where be careful how you post stuff. I can't say enough. You have to be careful, about how you post stuff out there, because it affects your privacy. At time, it could distract you from. Don't spend too much time on social media, Facebook and the like. It was and the gaming, because it would, for the younger kids who are in school, who are preparing for exams, it's going to be a distraction from doing the stuff you need to do. And all these studies have shown, I mean, I mentioned it in the beginning, that we've seen a direct correlation of poor academic performance with high use of the computer. So here's some quick guidance, a checklist to be safe online. Keep your personal information limited. Don't share too much information out there. Try not to share your address, where mom and dad works, your home address, telephone numbers, email address. Try not to share too much information, because then there are persons out there who use that information to form a way how to gain access to you. Don't post content that's harmful. We just mentioned that. Only stick to age-appropriate sites and apps. So if you're under 17, 18, right? Stay away from if you see something pops up that talks about sex and things that you might not be ready for now, stay away from those stuff, because they're not age appropriate. And the age appropriate stuff that you should be doing. Set for parents, you need to set boundaries. You need to know what your kids are doing, when they're doing it, and for how long. The computer doing the taking hold of our children and raising our children just ain't cutting it, because then you're going to create persons that we don't know. Whenever you're looking at passwords, make sure you use a complex password. I mentioned that before. Don't use passwords that are your names and your cat's name and your dog's name and your best friend's name. Use something that has numbers in it, or is a little more complex. Be careful what you download. Everything that you download isn't good, especially if it was supposed to be paid for. Ensure that you have security software on your computer and that is up to date. So make sure you have some sort of antivirus, because the antivirus can protect us a lot and stop our computers from crashing and people taking control of them. Use the privacy settings on social media. Be cautious when using Wi-Fi networks. Now, for parents who doing the online banking and all that great stuff, do not use Wi-Fi in public places to do that unless you're using something called a VPN, right? Now, if you know you gotta buy something from Amazon, and you're at work or you're in town and you just need to run through this transaction, you hop on to the free Wi-Fi in town. You're asking for trouble because the free Wi-Fi tends to be all of the transactions, all the information that you key in on your computer is transmitted in clear text. So if someone had created a hotspot that looks like the authentic hotspot and you go enter in your credit card information, someone could be standing right beside you and seeing all the information. Then you see transactions coming off your card that you didn't execute, right? So be careful how you dispose for parents and guardians. Be careful how you dispose of your old devices, your old computer, your old tablets, your old cell phones. Don't just throw them in the garbage because they have information. They have personal identifiable information that you have created on them, right? Make sure you dispose of them the right way. Hit them with a hammer, put them in water for a couple of days, do something to stop anyone from then gaining access to them and and gaining access to your information. One of the additional things that we have done, so there's a lot of information to digest, and I'm coming up to the hour, and I think right on time. One of the things that we have done back in 2013 is to create this portal, which is a repository of a lot of this information, right? And it has tips for kids, tips for parents, cyber tips and advice, how to deal with cyberbullying, and it forces our kids to think before you click, and then think, click, surf is the name of the site, and it's thinkclicksurf.com. Up there at the top, you'll probably see .net, but it's not .net. It has been updated to .com. So this is a good resource you can go to if you need any information on being safe online. It's in 3 languages. It's in English, Dutch, and Papiamento. And you probably wondered why Dutch and Papiamento? Because, well, in 2013, when we developed this website, we launched it in Curacao, and the languages of Curacao are English, Dutch, and Papiamento. So hence, yeah, so we have it in English, Dutch, and Papiamento. And that's it. That's it for me. You're free to ask any questions at this stage. I'll just come back here to this checklist to be safe online so that we can pay close attention to this as I answer any questions that might pop up.
I have a question. Good evening, Mr. Olton. Thank you for your presentation. Really good. What happens when, sometimes you use your credit card and for some reason you do it at home, isn't that you do it on a hotspot? Mm-hmm. Or you pay something in Britton, you use your card and somehow your card gets compromised. And then you see all these crazy things coming through.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on, right? And the only real answer for that is to ensure that you take a close look at your statement, right? Or if you have online banking, take a close look at all your transactions. And right now, with this chip and pin, I would encourage anyone who has one of those new chip and pin cards to get online banking and pay close attention to your money, because those cards are high risk.
I thought they were supposed to be more secure.
Yeah, and they can be. I can copy. Let me show you how insecure they are. Right. Mm-hmm. Quick example. You can go to a point of sale, right, and tap.
Right. Yeah. Right. That makes it. Yes. That's the Wi-Fi. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can take the card Go to the point of sale and tap. Okay, no problem. One of the things that the banks and credit union aren't telling us is that those cards can be copied or cloned. Someone can walk by your pocket and clone your card with the right technologies in their pocket and clone your card and then go making transactions and tap too, right? So what most persons who have those cards do, to prevent it from being cloned, you tend to put the card in a metal jacket. A small little metal jacket. The bank should have them.
Okay.
It's something that you should go and buy. But that's just our information that isn't being shared with the public, right?
So Deon, you know those the cards, the little folder you keep your business cards in. That would be a secure place to keep it in.
That would be a more secure place to keep it, yeah.
Okay.
But there's some small ones that actually could fit in your wallet that just holds the card, right? It's about the same size as the card, and it just holds the card, but it's metal. It's like a metal sleeve for the card.
And that causes the frequency and that transmission to interfere with that.
Yeah, you can't get through the metal to get the card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I recognize too with the gaming, it seems that a lot of hackers in terms of cards seem to frequent the games. So when the children use the cards, then you find that the cards get hacking without any ease.
Yeah, and sometimes the kids are at fault because sometimes the kids might share information with someone that they think is their friend. I have some strict rules when it comes to my sons and gaming, right? Like my youngest son, he can't play the games anymore that he don't know. I will go ballistic. It has to be some person from his primary school, right? Or his current secondary school. And if I don't know any of them, nah, you ban. You need to stay away from people you don't know. Because for the same reason, a lot of the gamers hang out in areas like Discord and Fortnite to gain access to kids who unwittingly share their correct name and their correct age, right? And then these bad guys try to gain access to our kids for whatever reason, So we have to be very careful.
Okay, so that's my question. I'm opening up for everybody else because we've passed our time, but anybody has any pressing questions or any questions at all, this is the time. Mr. Olton is very, very knowledgeable. So this is the time to ask your questions.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for the presentation.
Good evening.
You had up a slide. Can you put back up the slide? 2 slides before this one. I think it had an acronym. I can't be too sure. That's one.
This one?
Right, that one, right. And the second thing is, I heard you mention about screen time. My question is, not like children are home 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much as a parent you could do to keep them occupied.
Yeah.
Play games, go play with them, go for walks, etc. But is there a safe amount of screen time, or that is solely in control of a parent?
I think that's a controlling parent, and I think we need to encourage the kids to do other things other than being zombies, right? I call them zombies. I have the same problem with my kids, right? And if I work from home, right? So we're all working from home. They're on their computers, and if I look around and I don't see them for a little while, for too long, and I ain't seen no one. Well, and I have things they could do around the house. So I have dogs. So if I look around and nobody's fed the dogs or watered the dogs or do anything around the house, I start calling names and asking them to go and do stuff just to break up the monotony, because they don't see the harm in the things that they're doing, right? So maybe if it's a pet that you can get your child that doesn't require a lot of attention, right? But it's a lot of attention that, if you don't feed it for a day or so, it won't die, or get them into plants, stuff that they can do to get away from the device for some period of time. All that away time is positive for them. Give them chores, find chores for them to do, take out the garbage. It's time to take out the garbage. Clean the bathroom, wash down the step, pick up leaves. Let's go for a walk as a family. There's so many things that we can do. And we too, as adults, we need to get away from the computer sometimes. So it's a win-win. When we get them to go outside, when we ourselves go outside with them, is a definite plus for all of us. Any more contributions? Feel free to ask.
So if I don't hear any more questions. I really want to thank you, Mr. Olton, for spending this time to share with us this evening. We've had a number of people who visited our session this evening. I see Kenroy, I see Roland, I see Rolanda, I see Taria, I see Reverend Anthony. I see lots of people joining us, and I really want to thank you for spending the time this evening to join with us. We hope that you've gathered some information. I like the one, what is power without control, and the think helps our children. If it's not true, it's not helpful, it's not inspiring, it's not necessary, if it's unkind, don't send it. Delete it from your phone.
Delete it from your phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pastor Anthony, you have a question?
Yes, good evening to all.
Good
I
evening.
happened to join late and I'm so sorry. And I think it's very good information to have. Unfortunately, I can see many people didn't on, but I would like to know how can I get in contact with this gentleman so that if I wanted him to make a presentation to my church or something, how possible is that?
Well, we make presentations to churches, to schools. I have a team that I work with as well.
Okay.
So we will go to schools, churches, and try to raise the level of awareness. This is a part of our give back to the community, to keep our kids safe, because any life that we can save, any child that hears this information, any parent that pays the time to scrutinize based on the information that they have here, scrutinize their kids' behavior, could possibly save their life. So we talk about life. We talk about life-changing, behavioral changing aspects of our society that are now things that we can do now, that we can help save our kids now. So, my team and I, we would go to any church. We've been to churches as far as St. Lucie. You can't get much further than St. Lucie, right? But we've
that
gone.
Is true, yes.
Yeah. We contribute.
Well, I would get your information from Pastor Margaret, and I will contact you.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay. Thanks very much for your presentation, and indeed, it's good.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. In addition, we also recorded this via YouTube, so we will have it on our YouTube channel, and we will circulate it as well, because that information can also be disseminated, so that we can still use it to think. But I like the think acronym, and it's very good.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
No problem.
For giving the time this evening, and I do appreciate you coming, and I'm happy that it happened. It happened.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Finally happened.
Yeah, Marty, also for being persistent.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, Marlon is persistent. Marlon was not going to let me go.
Yeah,
And I've done this. We've done this a couple of times before, with Marlon too, and touched, and also with her daughter, and touched a couple of schools, and it was really well received. So, as I said, this is stuff that we do. Now, a big time, one of the big times that we do this is also October, because October is the Global Cybersecurity Awareness Month, right? And, we would write articles, and we would go out and speak to kids and go to churches. I mean, the largest group I have done so far has been an assembly of about 300 kids. Yeah. So that's why you have, and the content has to be engaging. And this is one thing that once you start to speak about it, it captures the attention of even the small kids in the room. Because, you know, I can remember a couple years ago, I did one at a primary school in St. George, and after it, a guy, a young boy, came up to me and told me, Mr. Olton, everything you said there is true. I was on the phone, I was on the computer playing a game, and this guy was asking me where I live, and so this stuff isn't far-fetched. This stuff is real. This is real, and it's something that affects our kids right now. So as many avenues we have that we can share and spread the knowledge out there, and that's why we created the website. Yeah. So just in case you might not get to me, you can go on the website. Your parents can go on the website and look for content. There's content for kids as well. So you can kind of like help yourself because the content is here.
Yeah. Especially that one too where you see the hand moving through the mouth, being, that was
Yeah.
well presented.
Yeah. There's graphic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if there's one we should always remember is this one here. Yeah.
Yes.
The anonymity.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And
that's
then-
it for me. And then how we
and
relate
then
it to
this-
the law. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
the
very
law,
important.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you have it stored on your phone, then you are also in breach of the law. So
You
when
are
you
in breach of the
download,
law.
it immediately goes to your download. So
Yeah.
people need to be aware of that and just
Yep.
clear it from your phone.
Yeah, delete it. And it helps you to manage your circle better, because people that send you inappropriate content, you don't really want them sending you inappropriate. And if they persist, then you just block them because they're putting you at risk.
So no, it's not, don't even go on your phone.
Yes, don't have it on your phone.
Right. Okay, because WhatsApp immediately don't put it on download. So now you know that. Go to
Yeah.
your downloads, delete them, delete
Delete.
the images.
Yeah, delete the content.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask Tony to pray for us this evening, and thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together once again in this session, Lord. Thank you for all the knowledge that you have imparted to us. Thank you for Mr. Olton. I pray that you will bless him as he works and protect him as well as he continues to do what you have called him to do. I pray for everybody that is gathered here tonight. Pray for their families, Lord, that you will cover and protect us all, and that we will take in what we have learned and spread it to someone. And I pray that you will continue to watch over us and keep us and bless us. In Jesus' name I pray of thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Remember that next Friday is a public holiday, our Day, and we will not have any Youth Connect next Friday. Next Wednesday's elections, and Friday is a public holiday. Stay safe, stay blessed.
All right, you
Have a good
too.
evening,
Good
everybody.
night.
Okay,
Thank you. The
Bye.
same to you.
okay, bye.
Good night to
Good night.
Thanks
everyone.
again, Marlon. Thanks again,
Good night.
Marlon.
You're welcome, ma'am. Not a problem.
Okay, great.